I had an affair with a married man. He demanded me to abort, so I ran. Now, he's back with a court order and $200,000 to rename my son. IF26 had an affair with a married man, M42, a few years ago. I had no clue he was married when we first met and hooked up. I obviously looked him up on social media, and while he did have photos of his kids on there was absolutely no mention or photos of a wife at all. I found out that he was married about a month after we first got together, but he told me it was just a marriage on paper and that they basically lived separate lives and agreed to remain married for practical purposes until the kids were older. They owned a business, which she really ran, and he was just financially involved in. I knew at the time that I probably shouldn't believe him, but I convinced myself it was true. I was in my early 20s, and so attracted to him, and I guess almost infatuated with him. He made me feel so good. I know now that I should have ended it immediately, but I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I was addicted to all of the attention he gave me, the great the places he'd take me. I felt special. I was so naive. I got pregnant about a year into seeing him. I had always been so careful with preventing pregnancy, but during my relationship with him, I took stupid risks. I was so high in lust with this guy, it's embarrassing. The things he'd asked me to do, I'd say yes to almost anything, even when I knew it was a bad idea. I was in love with him, or I thought I was. I hadn't intentionally wanted to get pregnant. I would of course dream about being his wife and having a family, but I knew that wouldn't be a possibility while he had this arrangement with his actual wife. I didn't get pregnant on purpose with any intention of him leaving her for me, even if I wished that we could be a real, normal couple. I was surprised by how excited I was to be pregnant with his baby. I wanted that baby once I found out I was pregnant. The thought of carrying this baby of the man I loved was so special to me, but I knew he probably wouldn't feel the same. I told him I was pregnant, and he told me I couldn't keep the baby. I expected his reaction, but I was devastated, and it hurt me to my core that he didn't feel the same way I did. He offered to pay, to make a whole weekend of it somewhere exciting, and to buy me something special if I'd just please get rid of the baby. He explained that he didn't want any more kids and that he couldn't openly be a father to another kid when he and his wife were still pretending to be happily married to the outside world. I agreed to do what he wanted, and we made plans for him to pick me up and find somewhere out of town to go get it done. I was all packed the night he was going to pick me up, but I started to feel really scared and really unsafe about the whole thing. I took my bag and checked myself into a hotel to hide because I couldn't go with him. I texted him to say I promised to never contact him again and to never name him as the father or go after child support if he'd promised to leave me alone. At first, he tried to sweet-talk me into doing what he wanted. When I didn't cave in, he said some very nasty things to me and that I essentially better never contact him again or show up at his door. I have a 2-year-old now. At times, it's been difficult, but overall, we are thriving as best we can. I have kept my word about not naming him as the father or requesting child support. His wife contacted me on social media. Well, she's his ex-wife now. She wants to talk to me. She found out about me and told me that she divorced him 6 months ago. She wants her children to know their siblings, and for my child to know his siblings. That's weird to me. I haven't responded back to her yet. I am unsure about how to approach this. How do I respond to this? I wonder if I'm being selfish by not exploring an option for my child to know his siblings, if she's being genuine about that. If I was married and my husband fathered a child outside of our marriage, I don't think I'd feel the same that she does. Update number 1. I made a post 3 weeks ago and things have only gotten stranger. After posting here, I sort of decided that I wouldn't respond to her. I'd just ignore it. She just sent me one message, so it wasn't as if she was badgering me about talking to me or meeting me. On Friday night, I decided to message her. I don't really know why. I think it was really just for my sake so I could have the chance to apologize to her. I told her that I would be more comfortable speaking with her face to face since I couldn't trust that it was really her. She said she understood. I was too nervous to meet her in person, but we did a video chat. I didn't know what to expect, if this was all a ploy, just to unleash her fury on me or what. I mean, I deserve that. She wouldn't be wrong to feel that way. It was really her. She told me she discovered our affair when she found communications between the two of us after our relationship had ended. She told me I'm one of many women he had affairs with over the years, and she knew about somebody even before he met me, but she didn't divorce him at the time. Finding out about my child was the final straw for her. I told her I was sorry for my relationship with her husband and admitted that I knew he was married. She graciously told me she forgives me and that while she harbored a lot of anger towards me initially, she ultimately blames her husband. I'm not blameless, but she chooses to not hate me, essentially. She said she couldn't have said this 6 months ago or a year ago when she first found out about me, but she has moved past that. She still has anger toward him. In addition to many other emotions surrounding him, she started pouring out her heart to me about their 20-plus year marriage and life together, and it was very awkward because what do I even say? Her kids know about me and my son. She says they're very mad at their father. Somehow I don't think they're mad about the fact that he's not involved with my son's life. And why would they be mad about that? I would hate myself if I were them. I told her that with my son being so little right now, I don't really feel comfortable with him meeting her kids or being involved with their family. I feel unsure about it, and it's just not something I feel needs to happen right now. Then she told me her ex-husband was in a bad accident 2 months ago. He's fine now, still not allowed to return to all his normal activities just yet, but will be fine. He is probably the most physically active person I've ever met, barely ever seems to sit down, so he must be terribly annoying to be around if he's not allowed to go all the time. She told me he wants to meet my son. Apparently, she moved back in with him temporarily when he first came home from the hospital. She said the accident really shook him up and he has been expressing a lot of regret about my son, not being involved, not providing for him. So now it's like, was everything she said just a lie? And he somehow got her to reach out to me on his behalf, and she actually did it. It felt almost like a relief talking to her initially, but then it's like, was any of that true? Or you were just trying to be his messenger? I don't even know if that part is true now. Why wouldn't he just contact me himself? I'm just feeling so uneasy about the whole thing now. Update number 2. I posted about this a few months ago. I have not been in contact with her since then. I deleted my social media. I don't know why, but the whole thing just really made me uncomfortable. Since I last posted here, then I received a handwritten letter from him. In it, he expressed how he wanted to get to know our son. He wants to be a father to our son. He wants to provide financially for him. He'd like us to come visit him. He asked me to sign a paternity affidavit. I refused to do so. I know he is my son's father, but I'm not going to make this that easy for him. After the things he said to me and threatened me with, he at least has to work for this. At that point, my parents felt that we needed to meet with a lawyer. All communication from me has gone through a lawyer. I have never responded to him personally, directly. Now, I have a court order for paternity. I have to present my son to have a specimen taken tomorrow. I already know what it's going to say. It's not that I don't want my son to have a dad in his life. It's just the whole situation is a mess. And he lives a few states away from me. I don't know what to do. I can't really do anything. He's doing things legally. Next, I'm sure he'll petition for some form of custody or visitation. He's not married anymore, supposedly, but he's a lot more established than I am. He has considerably more financial resources. I also know he has all sorts of connections where he lives. Luckily, they don't hold as much weight here in my state, but it's still so scary to me. I'm a bad mom. I brought my son into this world knowing it was a messy situation. I just got so comfortable with it, just being the two of us, and now I don't want to give that up. Update number 3. I won't rehash the whole thing here. My previous posts are on my profile. It still felt weird. I mean, he turned really mean and didn't want anything to do with me or our baby, and hadn't made any attempt to contact me in years, and I was not hiding. His wife was obviously able to find me on social media, and you can find my address online. I felt like if he was serious, he'd take the steps to establish paternity legally, and that's what he did. Around 1.5 months ago, we were ordered to submit DNA samples for a paternity test. It took around 5 weeks to find out what I already knew it'd say, but now things are stalled for another several weeks for the next step in the court process. I haven't talked to him at all during this whole thing. I didn't respond directly to his letter. I do have a lawyer, and everything is basically going through him now. Then without any warning, he just showed up at my home last weekend, just knocked on the door like it was nothing. Basically, this is his son, and he doesn't want to wait another 6 weeks for the court to inevitably order us into some sort of custody mediation anyway. His words. Why can't I just talk to him? I told him he made me uncomfortable, and him just showing up at my house really made me uncomfortable. Honestly, I don't know what made me so uncomfortable. The fact that he showed up unannounced like that, or the fact that I instantly felt the same attraction to him that I had when I was with him, and I didn't want to feel that at all. In some weird way, part of me felt happy to see him, and then another part of me was disgusted that I was happy. He said he doesn't understand why we can't just talk about this. He's not trying to take my son away from me. He just wants to be involved in his life and to help provide for him like he should have been all along. He's sorry he wasn't there when he was born. He's sorry he reacted the way that he did when I didn't go along with his plans to take me on an abortion vacation. Why can't I believe that he just wants to be a dad to his kid? I guess I agree with him. Why can't I just accept that he has had a change of heart? I can't trust myself. I can't trust my own judgment. I feel like if I easily let him into my son's life, I'm going to end up regretting it and be made a fool of somehow. I've already made so many mistakes when it comes to him. He says it's stupid of me to not try to work it out amongst ourselves first. I'm giving so much control to the court. I don't know whether to believe that or to think it's just his way of convincing me to do what he wants. I know he will get some sort of visitation and eventual custody. Maybe it would be better if we try to come to an agreement, but he had the ability to sway me so easily. I'm so stupid when it comes to him. Nobody else has ever made me feel so foolish in my life. I want my son to have a dad. I admit it's probably selfish of me to want to keep him away. I just keep imagining having to spend weeks or months apart from my child while he's living with his dad 12 hours away, and I can't stand the thought of it. I'm just feeling sad, stupid, and defeated. Update number 4. If you're interested in the backstory, you can read my previous posts. All I will say is that I have a 3-year-old son who was conceived in an affair I had with a married man. After initially making me promise to not contact him, to not name him as the father, and to not request child support, my child's father has been pursuing involvement in our son's life over the last several months. He lives states away, and most recently he showed up at my house to try to convince me to work things out directly with him. Since the last time I posted, we've recently had a mediation session, and he's met our son twice. At this time, he will have supervised visitation with me present. Because he lives states away, he is required to come here to see our son. It will not be on a weekly basis due to the travel. He will see him during 2 weeks of the month, 2 times each week, for a total of 4 visits a month, plus 2 video calls a month. This will last for 6 months. The next step will be for him to continue that schedule, but to have unsupervised visitation during which he cannot remove him from the area for another 6 months. After a year, we agreed to have another mediation session to determine next steps, with the goal, his goal, of being able to have my son at his home for short overnights. I'm not even ready to discuss that. He's already suggesting I can come for the first few times. I don't like the sound of it at all. We also have the option to request another mediation before 1 year, and something tells me he's going to pull that. I also have an order for child support. While he is in agreement with paying child support, it will have to work through the court system before becoming official, and for me to start getting the regular payment. He wrote me a large check in the meantime. I was hesitant to accept it. Not that I don't think my son deserves it, but now I'm just always worried I'll say or do the wrong thing legally, completely unknowingly, and shoot myself in the foot. Like, am I obligating myself and my son to anything by accepting this check? Can he somehow spin this against me? Of course, he was not in favor of the 6-month plan. And while he does understand that my son should not just go off with a stranger upon first meeting him, he wishes we could speed it along a little more, but 6 months was what we were able to agree on. He wanted to fly us both to where he lived so he could spend a week or 2 getting to know our son, but I don't feel that's appropriate at this time, perhaps in a few months, or around the holidays, depending on how things are going. It would be too much too soon. The initial 2 meetings went pretty much just as I thought they would. My son is extremely shy. He wanted to hide behind me most of the time. Then, when he would venture out from behind me, as soon as his dad would say anything to him, he would scurry back behind me and just stare at his dad blankly without saying anything. He came out of his shell a little bit, however, he has still not said a single word to his dad. He just pretends like his dad isn't there, and only talks to me. I will say that his dad is being patient and understanding as far as that goes. If he's frustrated, he's not showing it. He did suggest that maybe our son needs to get out more, go to daycare more, or even preschool, instead of spending so much time with me and my parents. He's very delighted with how much our son looks like him, and how much he favors him over me. The one thing that did bother me is that I already told him I wanted to be very careful and mindful of how we informed our son, this little barely 3-year-old boy, that this man, complete stranger, is his dad. He said, "Sure, yeah." Then at the first meeting, he introduced himself as dad. Since then, I've been trying to help my son understand, like, you know how your grandpa is my daddy? This guy is your daddy. It's so surreal to me that any of this is happening. I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for something to blow up in my face. Now, it's just working on accepting our new reality. All of this change is hard and confusing for my son, and it's hard for me. Unless he really f***ed up, I'm looking at eventually shared times with my son, spending school breaks and holidays at his dad's house, hours and hours away in another state. It won't happen tomorrow, but it will happen in the most likely reality. I just hope he stays committed. If he can be a good dad to my child, then my child deserves that, no matter how sad sharing him makes me. If he breaks my son's heart, that'll be another story, and I won't accept that so readily. Update number 5. It's been 3 weeks since I last posted, and just over a month since our new visitation arrangement started. I've seen plenty of people here talking about how dumb I am. I don't really understand. What am I doing that's so dumb? I know it was dumb to have an ongoing, year-long affair with a married man. It was stupid to put myself in a position where I could likely end up pregnant. That was in the past. What am I doing now that's so stupid? I have a lawyer. Yes, I agreed to talk to his wife one time. How did I know she was just doing his bidding? Who would have thought that was the case? It's not even like I went to meet her in person somewhere. It was just a video call. I figured I at least owed that to her. Just one time and a chance to tell her I was sorry for what I did. But ultimately it fell off, and I protected my son by telling her I didn't think it was appropriate at this time for me and my 2 years old to travel to another state to meet her teenage kids. It's not as if talking to her opened the door for him to reach out to me. I was careful with what information I shared with her. It's not as if I told her my address. He didn't need her to gather that info from me. Me talking to her isn't what prompted him to contact me directly and establish paternity. When he reached out to me directly about wanting to be involved with our son, I didn't reach out to him and decided to discuss things directly with him. I got a lawyer. When he showed up at my house, I didn't let him inside. I put my son in his room. So he didn't eventually see our son or have access to him. I'm listening to my lawyer. I met with him in mediation, and I am trying to make careful decisions for my son. There is nothing I can do to prevent him from having access to our son. The court will grant him access if I fight it. At least this way I have a say in the arrangement. We are supposed to be using a parenting app. Since the last time I posted, he's reached out to me outside of the app. Now he keeps talking about us coming there to visit him. I have told him no, it's not appropriate. It's too much too soon. He's also already started talking about changing my son's last name to his, but maybe in a year or so. He tries to have personal conversations with me, not always about our son. I have shut those down and referred him back to the parenting app. He thinks using the app is stupid and is only for people who can't get along. He thinks it'd be better for our son if we got along and got to know each other again. He cares about me and what's going on in my life, or so he says. I also didn't cash the check he gave me. I returned it. If he wants to help financially beyond the child support he's ordered to pay, he can purchase items that our son needs out of his own free will, but he isn't to give me cash or checks. My lawyer actually told me that there was nothing wrong with accepting and cashing the check. It wouldn't affect anything related to child support. But knowing him, he could be using this check as something he can bring up later in court, and I just didn't feel comfortable about it. Sure, I would have loved to have kept it. There are quite a few useful things I could have used that money for. Of course, he was upset when I returned the check via certified mail. His plan was foiled. I know he's trying to butter me up for something. I don't know precisely what, but I'm not that stupid that I don't see through him now. Update number 6. I'm not allowed to post more updates in True off my chest, so I'm posting this to my profile. Not sure if anyone will even see it. I think somebody reposted my story somewhere else because I suddenly started receiving messages about an update nearly 2 months after I last posted. It's been 2 more months of this. 2 months of him sending me messages, half about our son, half about everything else. Despite the parenting app, he just can't seem to stick to it. Every other day I get a text directly from him. How's our son? Followed by, you good though? Need anything? He's also started sending packages for our son. The last one came a few days ago. A big box of toys, books, and clothes. At first, I didn't know what to think. Was this another tactic? But then I looked at the stuff he sent. It was thoughtful. Age-appropriate books, clothes that actually fit, and toys my son genuinely liked. It was clear he put effort into it. Or the person he had to go buy the stuff put effort into it. Hopefully not this poor ex-wife. For a moment I could see him trying to be a father. A small part of me appreciated that. Still, I'm careful. I'm not letting my guard down. The good gestures are mixed with moments that make me feel uneasy. He mentioned, again, that maybe in a year or so we should talk about changing my son's last name. I don't know why he keeps bringing it up. He acts like it's no big deal, like It's just something we'll agree on eventually. On the other hand, I can't deny that having him show up consistently with child support and gifts has taken some pressure off me. He's contributing in ways that actually help. My son seems happy with the things he sent. And while I don't want to rely on it, it's nice not to worry about buying new clothes every month. The biggest challenge right now is finding balance. How do I acknowledge the good things he's doing without letting my guard down too much? How do I protect my son from getting hurt if he loses interest or starts pushing too hard again? I'm still following my lawyer's advice, still documenting everything, but the dynamic is changing and I'm trying to keep up. For now, I'm taking things day by day. Some moments feel peaceful, like maybe this arrangement would work. Other moments, I feel the weight of what's coming. He'll keep pushing for more time, for overnights, for a bigger role. He thinks it's unfair if I don't let him spend more time with our son during the holidays. He was practically throwing a temper tantrum about it. If I won't go to him, then he can rent an Airbnb and we can stay together. What? Why would we do that? He'll see him in December during his regularly scheduled visit. So then he called me a narcissistic, paranoid parent who just wants our son all to myself, and that I'm psychologically damaging him by not forcing him to go 0 to 60, playing happy family with a complete stranger overnight. The thing is, he has a way of saying it that makes me start to believe it, and then I'm worrying if I'm really being that way. I don't know why he can't just act like a normal, patient, understanding adult person. I'm cooperating and I know their level of contact and time will increase gradually. That's the key word, gradually. I'm not even trying to prevent that, but I just can't agree with this idea he has of just acting like he hasn't been completely uninvolved for almost 3 years. He's also trying to bribe me with money again. I'm not talking about the court-ordered child support and things like that. He asked me how much debt I had, and I wouldn't tell him. He kept pushing me to tell him, because he would consider paying it off for me. Come on, let me help you. It's not be helped out of the kindness of his heart. He says there aren't strings attached, but I'm sure there are. He'll expect something in return, like for me to agree to change our son's name and allow some sort of custody arrangement I'm uncomfortable with. I do have a lot of debt that's a huge stressor on me, and yes, I've considered taking advantage of his offer, but not when I know my son is the price I have to pay. He told me he can find out how much debt I have if I don't tell him, and that he knows a lot more about me than I realize. I hope that's just him trying to intimidate me. It sounds like it's mostly just talk and something stupid he'd say. He is sounding more and more like his old self, though. So much for this accident really changing him for the better. He's really had me fooled at moments. At the end of the day, it's not money or fancy things that would go a long way with me. It's things like a genuine apology for threatening to kill me, Little things like that which go completely ignored and swept under the rug that would mean much more to me, but only if it was completely genuine. That's all for this story. I'll be back with another one. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It motivates me to create more content like this.